Today is 1-4, which is decimal place value. So you have a couple vocab words to write down. The first is standard form. And standard form is when it's just written with numbers. So with the decimal 0 and 245 thousandths, standard form is just 0.245, just written with numbers. Next we have expanded form. An expanded form is where each place is written out. So if we're going to use that same decimal from the first one, 0 and 245 thousandths, the way I write that in expanded form is I take the first place, which is the tenths place, and I'm going to write the digit 2, and I'm going to multiply 2 times the place. The place is the 1/10ths place. So you've seen this before. It's that fraction 1/10 for the tenths place, 1/10. I'm going to put it in parentheses just to make it look a little bit nicer. Okay, then I'm going to add it to my next place. My next place is the hundredths, and I have a 4 there. So it's going to be plus 4 times the hundredths place, which is 1/100. And then I'm going to add it to the thousandths place, and the digit I have in the thousandths place is a 5, and I'm going to multiply it by 1/, you guessed it, 1,000. So this is expanded form, and why it works is if I did the actual math here, you don't have to do the math in expanded form, but if you were to do the math, it would look like this. The 2 times 1/10 would be 2/10ths, plus 4 times 1/100 is 4/100ths, plus 5 times 1/1000 is 5/1000ths, and you know how to convert these fractions into decimals. We'd have a 2 in the tenths place, 2/10ths, plus we'd have a 4 in the hundredths place, so 4/100ths, plus a 5 in the thousandths place because it's 5/1000ths. When you add it all up, you get 0 and 245 thousandths. This first example is actually how you write out in expanded form. Word form is just writing out exactly what you would say out loud in words. So written with words. You don't use any numbers. So for that same one, it would be 245, and then the place, thousandths. 245 thousandths. And your last word, vocab word, is equivalent decimals. Okay, equivalent decimals, just name the same amount. So, an example is 1 4/10ths, 1 40 hundredths, 1 400 thousandths. All I'm doing is adding zeros. You can see on that last example, I've added 5 zeros behind the 4. It's worth the same amount. Remember, you can add as many zeros as you want behind a decimal, and it will not change the value. So 1.4, 1.40, 1.400000000000, as much as you want. All right, let's take a look in your practice book. Number 1 says to write the word form of each number and tell the value of the underlined digit. So here we have 3 and 100 thousandths. Let's write that out in words. 3 and 100 thousandths. And then it says tell the value of the underlined digit. Well, the 1 is underlined, so we know it's going to be 1. And then you got to tell me what place it is in, and that is the tenths. So it is worth 1/10. Let's go down to the next section and do number 4. So number 4 says take the expanded number and write it in standard form. So write it with just regular numbers, not multiplication and adding in it. I know this looks a little bit intimidating, but it's going to be pretty easy. So we're going to divide this up into sections. Anything that is multiplied is going to be its own place. So 8 times 1 will be a place. 5 times 1 over 100 is a place, the hundredths. And 9 times 1 over 1,000 is a place, the thousandths place. I like to split them up because I know when there's a plus sign, I can divide it right down the plus sign and go, okay, each of those is going to be a place. So first I'm going to do the math of 8 times 1, and that's just 8. So I know that 8 is going to be a whole number. I'm going to do 5 times 1 over 100, and just like before, it really means it's a 5 in the hundredths place. So 0.05, 5 hundredths. And then I'm going to do 9 over 1,000, which we know is just going to be a 9 in the thousandths place. Now all I have to do is add them together. So I know the first place is going to be an 8, which is the ones place, and I have a decimal. After that comes the tenths place, but if you look, there's no tenth in our problem, so I have to put a 0 there. There's no tenth, but you have to put something in that spot. So we have 0 tenths, followed by our hundredths, and in that we have the 5, so I'm going to put a 5 there. And then the last place is our thousandths place, and we have a 9. So the final answer is 8 and 59 thousandths. The last one I'm going to do is number 6, and that says write 2 decimals that are equivalent to the given decimal. So they gave us 5 and 300 thousandth, and I know that I can add as many zeros as I want to the end of this, or I can take away the zeros that are at the end. So if I just rewrite this, I'm going to take away 1 0, and I should have 5 and 3 tenths, and 30 tenths, and 5 and 3 tenths. So if I take away 1 0 and I take away 2 zeros, it's worth the same amount. 5 and 3 tenths, 5 and 30 hundredths, and 5 and 300 thousandths are all worth the same amount. Again, I could add as many zeros as I want to as well, but that just takes up too much room on my paper.